So, as I'm asking you to make a snapshot of images about yourself, I'm doing the same. So this is my example. I did add extra to my title slide. This is the black-capped chickadee saying its name often when it sings. Chickadee-dee-dee. Anywho, the black-capped chickadee is my favorite Minnesota bird. And one thing I love about it is it is tough enough to withstand the Minnesota winter, sticks around all winter long, and brings a little brightness to the coldness of January and February. All right, the first official organism I am sharing. Yeah, I know, potatoes. What does that have to do with anything related to me? Well, here you go. I love potato chips and French fries. They don't love me, but they're one of my favorite snacks of all time. I love the salt and the crunch. And also, McClelland, my last name, Scotch Irish. And I learned from my dad when I was a kid that a lot of folks from our family past and where we were from immigrated to America in response to the potato famine. And growing up, I also followed NBA stars, which maybe some of you do today. And one of the coolest I remember from my day was Spud Webb of the Atlanta Hawks. He was only 5'7", and he could dunk. And Spud is another name for a potato. There is a link here if you want to see Spud Webb in the dunk contest back in the 80s. It's pretty cool. All right, bur oak. Those are acorns, the fruit of the bur oak. So what would a bur oak say about Mr. McClelland? Well, it was commonplace in my backyard. I grew up in New London, Minnesota, and the area around me was kind of a unique ecosystem called an oak savanna, where you had open grassy areas, but then lots of scattered oak trees. So oak trees were plentiful. In front of the house I lived in was a giant bur oak tree that dropped acorns. I loved to hit those acorns with a tennis racket as far as I could over our garage. And this tree was also home base on my kickball field. So lots of kickball games with my friends and home base, making it all the way around to tag the bur oak tree as home plate. All right, I see these type of acorns when I hike today, and I'm reminded of my childhood home. This here is the great blue heron. And the great blue heron is not here this time of year unless it can find open water. But yeah, you're going to find it around water. And a lot of people call them cranes, but what's kind of unique is when they fly, they tuck their neck in, unlike cranes or waterfowl like geese or swans. And so I grew up seeing these strange birds walking along the shores of ponds and marshes near where I grew up. When they took off to fly, I remember thinking how strange it was that they curled up their neck and had this big bulge hanging underneath their head. And while I was kind of noticing and observing that while picking raspberries behind my garage, at the very same time, the bird took a dump, and I couldn't believe how much crap came out of that, and was glad I wasn't directly underneath that, because that would have been pretty nasty. I also heard a song a couple years ago from one of my favorite artists, Sarah Jarosz, called Blue Heron. In fact, the album is Blue Heron Suite. And it was written in reflection of the news of her mom's breast cancer diagnosis. So when I heard that story about the album and the songs inspired, in the context of losing my mom to cancer in early 2021, I felt an extra strong connection to the music. So this is Hyla versicolor, the gray tree frog. The gray tree frog is often gray, but oftentimes it has green because it can change its color to blend in better. So what does the gray tree frog say about me? Well, sometimes it's fun to change your look a little bit. Believe it or not, you'll know I have short hair today, but I've had long hair, ponytail, long hair, and sometimes I like to wear a shirt with a tie. Sometimes I want to be more casual. I like my Fun Day Friday shirt, so I like to change my look. And I would say more often than not, I like to blend in, but as a kid, I also loved climbing trees in our 5 acres of woods and had some of my favorite trees. I loved climbing so much, I actually wanted to be Spider-Man. Frogs like this one are also pretty chill and have to be patient in order to achieve success hunting. And I daily try to remind myself to be more calm and patient, moving throughout the day. And this last image, well, I actually couldn't decide. This is a flower that we see in July and August called bergamot. But then you've got the bumblebee too. So which organism should I pick? Hard to decide. So this picture actually exemplifies a challenge I have and sometimes in making decisions. So sometimes I weigh decisions longer than I should. I should just make a decision and go with it. Also, when I'm hiking, I tend to notice whatever's blooming and it draws my attention. And so I have way too many flower pics on my phone. I have more flower pictures on my phone than people. I find it extra interesting when I can also get a pollinator on the flower that I'm observing. When I think of a bumblebee, I often think of overlooked and underappreciated hard worker that the bees are pollinating for us. So I strive to be that kind of hard worker. And yes, I also like dad jokes. Bergamot is my favorite Minnesota bloom. And what's kind of cool about bergamot is it leaves remnants of its former glory in the leftover flower heads, which would just hold seeds. But if you squeeze the flower heads after they've long been a bloomed flower, you can actually remind yourself of the relationship they are as part of the mint family. They have a little minty smell to them. So those are my snapshots, and hope you know a little bit more about me and how to consider putting some of the pictures you're thinking of animals or organisms into story as well, to say a little bit about yourself.